You're listening to episode 181 of the Tennis Files podcast with special guest ATP Pro Nathan Pasha. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Tennis Files podcast. This is Mirban. We're back again with an interview, and this one is with ATP Pro Nathan Pasha, and very excited to have him on the show. I always really enjoy speaking with the professional tennis players who are putting in the hard yards on the tour, especially with this past year being such a crazy one. It was very interesting to talk to a pro who is particularly articulate and can really explain things well when it comes to technique and preparing for matches and things like that. Nathan is a very well-spoken person, and I actually caught wind of him when I was on my friend Peter Freeman's YouTube channel because he worked with Nathan on putting together a couple videos. So I definitely highly encourage you to check out Crunch Time Coaching, the YouTube channel there. But yeah, we had a very nice conversation encompassing Nathan's career and what he's doing on the Pro Tour, and very interestingly, how he analyzes his matches. And I was very surprised at how much film study is involved, if you will, how Nathan analyzes his matches and then creates a practice plan based on that, which is something that I think we all need to do a lot more of. Most of us don't even take videos of our matches, but as you'll see, Nathan even reveals to us a very simple way to take videos of our matches. So I think you'll really get a lot of great things out of this particular interview. As I mentioned, a lot of technical advice, strategic advice, mental advice, just how to prepare, the mindset. So it's all great stuff, and I'm definitely excited to give this one a re-listen myself very soon to take some notes on what I need to do to take my game to the next level. And to give you a little bit of background on Nathan, he was ranked as high as 119th in the world in doubles and 507 in singles on the ATP Tour. He is now focusing exclusively on doubles and breaking the top 100 and beyond. He also played college tennis at the University of Georgia and was ranked as high as 19 in the nation, while UGA was ranked as high as number 2. He was also a practice partner in 2017 for the Davis Cup, the USA Davis Cup team. And he has a really cool website at nathanpasha.net. And you can also find him at Nate Pasha on Instagram. So with that, let's go to the interview. And I'm excited to present it to you. It's a fairly long one, but a very good one. And so I hope you really enjoy it. So without further ado, here is my interview with ATP Pro Nathan Pasha. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Tennis Files podcast. It's really a pleasure and an honor to have ATP Pro Nathan Pasha on the podcast. I really enjoy especially speaking to, the best players in the world and people who are, on the tour and making a living doing it and, putting out their best tennis possible. So Nathan, thanks so much for taking the time out of your day to speak with me.
Thanks for having me. This is a fun thing for me.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, and I've heard you speak on other podcasts, and as we were chatting beforehand, you are doing some videos with my good friend Peter Freeman from Crunch Time Coaching. So definitely all should look out for that. But yeah, Nathan, it's obviously been a tough time these days for tennis players. But I was reading up on you, and you've actually got a website at nathanpasha.net. So that's really cool as well if people want to check that out. But I read, a very interesting story on your site as well as on some articles about how you first got into tennis, or really how you yourself chose to get in. So I was wondering if you could just recount that for the listeners.
Yeah, I mean, well, I was a competitive kid in general, so any sport I was competitive and wanted to do my best. I loved tennis, and tennis is something I wanted to play. It was also basketball and baseball at the time, really baseball and tennis. But my mom ended up choosing tennis for me, and we didn't live in the greatest area. And, she kind of felt like I was acting kind of like the kids in the area when I was doing baseball. So she kept me in tennis, and that's one thing led to another. And here I am, long story short. But that's how I stayed in tennis. And yeah, that's kind of the story.
That's awesome. And, obviously big props to your mom for, teaching you a lot of values and raising you. So, I mean, how hard was it to be a young person, with I guess a single parent is the household you were raised in, right?
Yeah, well, looking back on it, you realize how tough it is, and that is a credit to my mom. But going through it at the time, my mom made it a lot of fun for me. I mean, I I was pulled out of school when I was 9 years old, so I was homeschooled, and I basically played tennis all day and did some school. Now, it wasn't fun to catch up on the school part later, but going through the whole process, it was a lot of fun playing a ton of tennis and working hard and just kind of doing what I was best at. And so yeah, I mean, it was for sure like I owe my mom everything. She sacrificed everything for me to play because we definitely come from a low income family. And the only way I kind of got through juniors was through the help of other people kind of helping me. And and it's funny because I was actually thinking about it a lot lately. Like I feel like I'm kind of exactly like my mom, like she gets up, does her work, and I don't really see her until the end of the day. And, fast forward now during COVID time where we don't have to do anything, like that's kind of what I'm doing, so that's some kind of realizations I'm coming to myself.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, you learn a lot of things and you start to become like your parents, a lot of the time. And I think I heard on a podcast many months ago that I guess you might have been been in the same room as your mom, and basically you would see her like wake up super early every day and go to work.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's kind of where you got like your hard work and commitment values from, right?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, like there's times I remember her getting up just early in the morning, going off to her job, and then it was up to me to go to the tennis center for the day, and we'd see each other at the end of the day. But yeah, and it's also a credit to the people that kind of raised me at the tennis centers as well, and also at USTA eventually when I went there. So, but yeah,
Gotcha.
no, for sure.
Cool,
For
cool.
sure.
And so yeah, speaking about you training at the USTA, you obviously you played very well as a junior, and then you were noticed by Rodney Harmon, who was at the time I think head of USTA men's development. So just curious about like how exactly it is that he discovered you. Like, did he talk to you at a tournament, or was it just like by email or some other form?
I know when I won a super national when I was 14, it was Winter Nats that kind of put me on the map in terms of USTA's radar. And I knew they were going to watch me play at Kalamazoo, which is like the biggest junior tournament. And he was at one of my backdraw matches. I had already lost, and yeah, like he won. He decided to kind of have me on board, and I was lucky because I was kind of like a borderline pick. I mean, like I was good and I had a good ranking and good results, but the kids that kind of got invited there were really had a bit more better results than me. They were kind of, I don't want to say they were taking a chance because I don't think it was necessarily a leap, but they were also projecting upside as well as good results. But I was definitely lucky that Rodney took a chance, and it was a huge help in terms of just the next step I needed to make in terms of growing up. There weren't a lot of kids to kind of hit with once I was turning kind of like 15 and stuff like that. Plus, we were running out of money as well. So it's kind of funny how everything, looking back on it, how everything kind of happened at the right time in order really just to get to the next spot.
Yeah, it's amazing. It seems like a lot of different things, happened at the right time. The person asking if you wanted to sign up, for a tennis class, and then, Rodney seeing you, and very, very cool stuff. Just curious. I mean, you did mention that what changed is obviously like better players, like to pick from to train with, but like what other things like kind of changed with the training or anything else, like from before training at the UCA to after, like, well, during, sorry. Yeah.
So, but wait, training from when to when?
So like before you went to USTA to train to then when you went there.
That's funny. That's a loaded question. So it was definitely more serious when I got to USTA, and it was more structured. I worked just as hard when I was at home, but it was in kind of more of I was used to the coaches, and I did things their way, but it was kind of like my way and their way. When I was at USTA, it was like very like this, and we're doing this again the next week, and so we got worked pretty hard at USTA, and USTA was a place where I realized how hard I can work for a long period of time and still feel fine. And that wasn't everyone's experience. Some people got hurt, some people got burnt out, and but I was fine, and I kind of enjoyed that working rhythm of 2 practices a day and 1 fitness a day, and then that's kind of it. And I kept that working rhythm up until now, really. So it's I would say I would really just say the whole difference is that everything was more structured at USTA, and I definitely got exposed to more opportunity. That was where I also got to hit with a lot of pros and train with pros. James Blake at the time, huge.
Nice.
Isner, and they set up hits with Nadal, Soderling. I mean, tons of people. So it's maybe I kind of developed talent when I was at home, but in terms of understanding maybe more of the professional side of the game because I was around it more. That kind of happened at USTA. And I kind of compared everything to that, even college training, to be honest. So, yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, great opportunities and, motivation when you get to practice with all those amazing players. And yeah, so you mentioned like the style of regimented training was right for you, but so you don't think that necessarily is the way to go for everybody, or should it pretty much be like that for anybody trying to be serious about it, do you think?
Well, it's funny because it's a combination. You definitely have to work in a systematic way to make it, or to just be really good. Not just talented. You got to be systematic about your approach. It has to be consistent, but it has to be unique to you in your own way. And that's what I realized. I mean, USTA is one way. And it worked for me because it turned out I can kind of, I could take that. And I kind of like that. That's not everyone's thing. So tennis is so individual. So yes, you have to be systematic. Yes, you have to develop a working rhythm, but like, what is that for you? And that's a huge process to figure out because it's like you get cultural values, like try as hard as you can until you break yourself. And then, when you don't want to get back up, you kind of guilt yourself a lot. And like, don't guilt yourself. Just kind of get to know yourself and what's your rhythm. And I don't think that's preached enough. It definitely wasn't at USTA. That could have helped for some kids, not for me, but for some kids. And yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, when I speak with, a ton of coaches on the show, like they all say like it's so important to put in the work to get to know each student and, their values and even their background so then you can figure out the optimal training. You can't just give a cookie cutter training regimen for everybody. So I really appreciate that,
I mean, well, from a coaching perspective?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I can really only give my experience from this year just because it's been my first time working with the kid for over 3 months, 4 months or whatever. But her relationship definitely develops whether to or not. It impacts whether the kid will listen to you or not. And it all takes a life of its own. There's a right way and a wrong way, but it's an art and a science. That's probably the fun part about tennis and development.
Yeah, I agree with that. So Nathan, like, I was wondering, you obviously repped your home state, which is really cool by going to University of Georgia, great career there. But did you have any other schools that you were really seriously considering going to? And if so, how did that process all work out?
At the time, no. It was just like Georgia was a big school. I was familiar with them. I remember seeing them at matches when I was younger, and I was like, hey, I get to watch the Falcons on Sunday anywhere I want. Don't have to go to a sports bar. Like, I get to be home. My family gets to see me, and that was a big deal because I barely saw my family the 3 years prior when I was in Florida. So that was really it. But I did have other offers. Like I was the top recruit in the country.
Sure.
But like the limiting factor was like I needed full support from whoever out of state, and that's school has to make a commitment for that. And there were a decent amount that were willing. I was talking to UNC a decent amount. Florida State some, Florida a decent amount, LSU. I mean, most of the schools. I didn't really, the winners at the time really were Virginia and USC.
Mm,
Virginia wasn't going to spend a full, like I would have had to get some kind of, USC, I don't think they had a full,
mm.
but pretty much everyone else, I kind of felt like I was kind of on the table for. And, I mean, I forgot what was the actual question? Sorry.
Oh, no, that's cool.
Want to make sure I don't.
You pretty much were answering it. It was just basically like how
Okay.
did the process go between like selecting what school you wanted to go to?
That's how I selected it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It was just, hey, it's right there.
cool,
You know
cool.
what I mean? But also like it's really good and it's right there. It wasn't just, hey, let's just go to Georgia. It was,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, while you were there, I think UGA went up to number 2 in the country. That's pretty good. So can't
Yeah.
get much
I mean,
better.
it was definitely a team effort. But I was definitely happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's funny because I was trying to, or I had been DMing Coach Diaz to try to get him on too. So hopefully we can make that
Oh,
happen.
nice.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
But I was wondering, what part or parts of your game do you feel like you developed the most and improved the most while you were at UGA?
Um, to be honest, for me, I honestly think it was a bit less about a part of my game that was developed. I don't know if one part of my game just took off, to be honest. I mean, it puts, I don't know, college forces you to grow up. I mean, you're making your own decisions.
Hmm.
You're kind of held accountable for your own, you can make your own decisions. Before then, I couldn't even make my own decisions.
Hmm.
You're competing with, you know, for a team. You're competing with a bunch of fans that are there just about every match. So it was for me. I think it was more about the experience and learning from that. I definitely did gain tennis wise for sure. I mean, Manny's a great coach.
Hmm.
Will Glenn, when I was there, was a great coach. But like, I don't know, at USTA, I had great coaches. I mean, for me, it wasn't. It almost. I mean, so like that was just kind of my context going in. It was more about just the daily disciplines and practices when I was at Georgia. I felt. But yeah, it was just being exposed to
Hmm.
just different pressure situations. And if I'm on the road at a future and or a challenger and it's a hostile environment, like I don't really feel shaken because
Yeah.
I'm used to serving a second serve at the University in Alabama and everyone's screaming on it as loud as they can and trying to be annoying. So um Georgia tennis is definitely an important part of my game in general, big time.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's tough out there. I remember playing at Cornell Invitational when we went up there. I played for UMBC, so it's kind of funny. I watched some of your videos, and they said "Go Dogs," and it brought me back to
Yeah,
because we're retrievers, so yeah, they would say the same thing. But
I
yeah,
got you.
and so like I was playing some dude, I forgot what school, but then like his teammates were like, "Oh, my grandmother plays better than you," and like it was,
Yeah. That sounds like college trash talk. That
yeah,
sounds like college trash talk for sure. For
yeah.
sure.
So it's
That'll come out. It's those are honestly when I run into other players on tour. There are a lot of former college players out there, and one of the most
mhm.
fun conversations to have are just like college stories of when you're on court and some random person said something. So those turn into some fun conversations.
Yeah, 100%, man. And yeah, so if
Yeah.
I get my years right, you actually played NCAAs twice at home, basically. So I mean, what was
Yeah.
that experience like? That must have been insane. Like 2 out of your 4 years, you're playing
Yeah.
at home.
Yeah, that was really lucky. That was really lucky. The experiences are great. It feels like there's nothing like it. Other 2 years were Illinois and Baylor. I mean, Illinois was
Hmm.
special because that's the furthest we made it. But Illinois, Baylor, meh. In terms of like the site and and
Sure.
stuff like that. But it was NCAA, so there were people that showed up. It was nice. But definitely Athens is great. You stay at a kind of a nice hotel, and it's just your home fans. They're it's kind of nothing like it, unless you're at an ATP level and you're playing in front of in front of that all the time. So I'm definitely appreciative, and both years were crowded and pretty special. I wish we would have done better, and I definitely think we underachieved those 2 years, but doesn't take the experience away.
Yeah, 100%. I'm just curious. I mean, obviously not to bring you back to, tough memories too much, but
No.
like what like in those times where you feel like there was some underperformance, like what did you kind of attribute it to in the end?
Um, I don't know. Like
A little bit of bad luck, you think, or
I
just?
the years were different. I mean, in terms of those 2 years, the
Mhm.
difference between those 2 years, honestly, the first year we worked really hard, and I think we were overly tense.
Mm.
Like we should have won the doubles point that we lost. I think we lost at one, won at two, and we had the match kind of won it. Either we had it one at three, or we were like heavily favored at three, and something happened. But it was kind of uncharacteristic. I felt it was weird. I really think the pressure got to us.
Hmm.
The freshman year team was my favorite team, and in my mind, it was the hardest working.
Mm.
All of them worked hard, but like that was it was. I just felt like everyone was on the same page.
Mm.
My first year, so I just felt like we just kind of got too nervous. And my third year, we worked hard, but I just felt we were emotionally just not disciplined. And I
Mm.
think that cost us in the end. So
Hmm.
those are kind of the stories of those two. And the winning and losing is very close.
Yeah.
So if you're a little bit emotionally undisciplined, it's not to say that we were off the rails,
Sure.
because we weren't, but like you've got to be, there's a certain level you got to be
Hmm.
to win. We didn't do badly. Underperforming for us is quarterfinals in the round of 16 of NCAAs,
Yeah.
so that's just what it felt like.
Yeah, I appreciate the insight.
Mhm.
This podcast is all about trying to help players improve. So I just, trying to see what might have happened
Yeah.
there. So it brought out a great point about emotional intelligence. So appreciate that. So kind of shifting to the pro tour. Well, actually, kind of the middle right now. I was going to ask you, what in your mind and from what you've experienced is a difference between college tennis play and then the tour?
College tennis. College tennis play is like it's talented, good, flashy, probably too much energy and
Mm.
just chaos. But like that's the fun part of college tennis,
Yeah.
honestly, and like that's the appeal. Like before I went to play college tennis, you see basketball, football, and you love that environment. You love to compete in it. I would keep it the same. I wish I knew how to control my nerves in that environment rather than just like go wild at times. Because I mean, every tennis is such kind of like a personal sport. Everyone plays their best at a different emotional baseline. And mine is a little bit calmer and just in the moment rather than talking trash and screaming in someone's face. So that's college tennis, and the more pro tennis is it's just more quiet and relaxed. But college tennis is just more energy and fun, and it's how it should be. If I were to teach it, I would probably teach my team how to control their emotions kind of through that whole chaotic environment. I mean, you got a crowd there, you got your girlfriend in the stands, or your friends, or your whoever watching, and there's a lot of pride on the line. So, yeah.
Got you. And so to that point, is there any special or particular mental training or things that you do to help with that element of tennis at the moment, or in the past years that you've been on
Yeah.
tour?
Yeah, I mean, well, to simplify it, I can tell you my routine now, and that's kind of
Sure.
come throughout the years of me understanding, of me just trying to understand what is a mental routine, why, how do you use it, yada yada. But basically, it's ultimately to stay in the present, and it's very simple, but it's also very hard to do. It's kind of, you can use your in my mind, or at least what I've read, or at least how I use it, I kind of use my five senses to stay in the present, and I think that's scientifically proven. But touch, smell, I'm not going to taste anything while I'm on the court to stay in
The
the
air,
present.
maybe.
But yeah, but sight. I mean, like like yeah, I know, right? But often, like for example, my routine when I'm on changeovers, I just focus on the raw data, like of my breath, just feeling the sensations of my breath just in and out, and I'm there. When I walk back to the baseline, I'm kind of saying lightly to myself, contact, contact,
Mm.
contact. And that's my feet hitting the ground and me just paying attention to that sensation, or I'm just paying attention to my breath, or I'm feeling my strings and paying attention to that. Really, any of those things just keeps me in the present moment, and it doesn't have me thinking man, I'm playing well right now. What if I just double fault the rest of the match? Hey, I'm doing this. What if I do this? What if I, and look, I mean, we all naturally, we all care. Those are high stress situations. Your thoughts are going to go wild unless you can kind of just control your conscious and your mind. So I just do different kind of things to just stay in the present, and I focus on my breathing to keep me relaxed. And those are really the main things. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, it's about understanding why you play tennis. It's about understanding that you don't identify with your wins and losses. You're more than that. It's about having those conversations too, and realizing that, hey, if your UTR is under a certain amount, it doesn't mean that you're a loser for life. You know, like it's basically about understanding that. And it's tough because kids react that way, you know. But yeah, it's about having those conversations over time, and then it's about developing a routine that just keeps you in the present and actually practicing it during practice. Like when you're practicing, it's not about focusing on where your elbow is. It's just about focusing on staying contact when you walk back to the baseline and on your breath before, you know, in between points. So there are different ways to practice it as well. It's not just about understanding. And if there's a huge thing that I've learned this year when coaching kids, it's not about telling them how to do something, because the idea can be simple and great and everything. But if I line 100 people up and tell them all to raise their hand, they're probably going to all raise their hand slightly differently. And it's the same with the tennis stroke. So it's about figuring out practical ways to get you there and to practice things. So.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, that's super powerful. I actually did a solo episode last week on how to focus, you know, on the court. And there was this one interview that I did, actually this presentation with Jeff Greenwald, who's basically a mindset expert. And he was encouraging people to follow a simple routine in between points, similar to what you mentioned. I think his routine was take a deep breath and then feel your feet on the ground and then adjust your strings.
Right.
It's kind of the same thing, you know, you're just refocusing. So
same language.
Yeah, you're not thinking about, you know, the previous point. Oh, I did this, I did that. You just reground yourself and go for it.
And sorry, but in my mind, coaching there is like your student, whoever responds to, what was his name again? You said Jeff? I'm sorry.
No, that's cool. Jeff Greenwald.
Yeah. So, I mean, so some kids are going to respond better to how Jeff phrased it. Some kids are going to respond better to kind of like how I phrased it. And by kids, I also mean people and people at whatever level.
Sure.
And it's just like, hey, there's really kind of only one or two ways to hit the ball, or really one way to hit the ball, and a million different ways to phrase it, you know, and the same thing with routines. But yeah, touching your strings, feeling your breath, just being in the moment, because at the end of the day, we can all hit the ball that's in front of us. But when we think about all the pressure, or the last time we served it out, or whoever is thinking about an opinion, whether we lose or whether we win or lose, it's really trying hard to keep those thoughts out of your mind. And it's hard because it's felt, but you got to keep it out of your mind.
Yeah, it's huge, you know? for sure. So on the topic of routines, I'm very interested in that, and I found just in daily life how powerful they are, you know, habit stacking and things of that nature to get you going for the day. So I was curious about your routine before matches, if maybe you could kind of take us through how that normally goes for you.
Yeah, so so playing primarily doubles on tour, we play in the evening time. I'll practice in the morning. I practice every morning because doubles, you can do that. Like it's you got to be fast and explosive, but it's not a marathon out there. So
yeah,
we practice our timing stuff and whatever in the morning. I go back, nap, and then right before the match, I honestly take 5 minutes. And this this may be really weird and scientific, but I put my AirPods in just like now. And there's like alpha brainwave music that kind of keeps me calm. And I focus on my breath for 5 minutes. I set a timer for 5 minutes and I just focus on my in and out. And by the time I'm ready to play the match, yeah, I feel those nerves, but they're kind of mitigated to the point to where they're controllable. And everything just feels a bit slowed down. Like I could just focus on the ball and play and let whatever happen. And although I kind of feel the emotions of those moments too, I can kind of keep them in check a bit better. So that's kind of what breathing does for me. You know, I just keep my eye on my breath. It just keeps me from getting me emotionally overwhelmed.
Yeah, that's super neat. I use an app called Calm, and they also have Headspace and others, you know, to meditate. But yours is a little bit different. So, like, how did you find the alpha waves? Like, you just Google it, or like, where did you?
Oh, that's funny. I can't remember how. I do remember I was in Korea at the time,
Huh.
and like I know there's different brainwave music. Like I was big on like study music, and it's
Mhm.
similar to that. Like you listen to it, it gets your brain waves in a certain state. Like I know the alpha state is big for just being in the zone. It's not where you're processing a bunch of thoughts. It's not where you're super relaxed. It's kind of right where you're just kind of focused on one thing, and I don't know, but I forgot how I stumbled upon it, but I did. But it can really be whatever keeps you in the present. For
Mhm.
me, that kind of helps me. But whatever keeps you in the present. Everyone's unique to themselves. I hear all kinds of different things, but I think they all follow the kind of laws of, hey, tap into your senses whenever you want to be in the present moment.
Gotcha, man. And then as far as a normal practice day or like a normal training day, rather, like how I know you spoke about like multiple practices and fitness, maybe back with USTA, but what is it like for you now?
During the COVID year, it's been
Mm.
the last 3 months at least. It's been training in the morning, teaching in the afternoon. And then I would either have gym in the evening or gym right after my morning session. But during like when I leave on Wednesday to go to Turkey, it's going to be practice in the morning, some kind of competition in the afternoon, and possibly serves and returns in the evening. Since that's kind of what doubles mainly comes down to. So that's kind of it, and then maybe film study 2 or 3 times a week,
Hmm.
and that's about it. That's about it.
Good stuff, Nathan. So, in regards to film study, it was very interesting because I was reading your blog at nathanpasha.net, and I saw a post there where you actually you're reflecting on a match that you and your partner had lost. It was a very close one, and you mentioned that you did film study and it brought out some very interesting things. So one of these things was about flex volleys, and so that was very interesting. So I was reading about that, what you wrote, and can you kind of explain like what that is to the
Yeah.
viewers and how to deal with them?
Yeah, well, there's all different kinds of volleys. And first of all, if someone's like, "What? There are different kinds of volleys. It's just not one volley." Yes, there are different kinds of volleys, and you need to know what they are so you can become a better volleyer. So, flex volleys are basically balls that are hit really hard at you, and you just flex them back. Flex is probably the wrong word because I don't want anyone over tightening them. Kind of like their their musculature to hit the ball, but those are called flex volleys. Probably, you got the flex volleys, you got the volleys with no pace, you got stretch volleys, you got volleys that jam you, and they all require different timing, footwork, etc. Long story short, you just want to lunge through volleys. You
Mm.
do. Like literally just like you're stepping out to lunge a ball. And the tricky part is the timing of like the lunge has to be long, it has to be forceful. It's almost as if you're jumping over a puddle
Mm.
kind of. But imagine like you're jumping over a puddle in strong lunge form, or you're fencing and you're going for the kill and you're lunging at someone.
Mm.
If you can lunge into the ball, time your body weight into the ball, that's how you volley. And the funny thing is, I feel like a lot of people are backwards in their explaining because we like to talk about the hand, keep the hand straight. And I feel like what some people don't understand is that, hey, like if you have no legs in your volley, all the force of the impact is going to go into your hand, and if you're not strong enough, your hand is dragging straight to the ground, regardless of whether you know what to do or not. So, bottom line, it's about lunging through volleys first, and then addressing upper body technique after that, which is a huge deal. And where, especially, I don't know which country club coaches, whatever. I mean, there are good country club coaches, but there's also a lot of not good country club coaches, and I feel like that'll help a lot of people's volleys if that was probably understood more. Because you can lunge through a volley and have bad technique and hit a good volley, but you can't have good upper body technique and have bad lower body mechanics and expect to hit a good volley. So, but sorry, I got off on a huge rant. Long story short, flex volleys, someone rips the ball at you, you just flex it back. But the whole goal is to be really calm with the upper body because anything traveling hard at us, we want to flinch. I don't know. It's kind of a survival mechanism. You flinch.
Mm.
But hopefully, if you're in that line of fire enough, you learn to stay calm and just hit the center of the strings. And that's what it comes down to. while you try to lunge through the ball. You don't have to, since the ball has pace on it and you can use that, but then you have to kind of wait for the ball to get to you and not be too far out in front. So it's also about understanding contact points.
Love that. Yeah, I can see why you've transitioned very well to being a coach, Nathan. Very good
Oh,
explanation
thanks.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Thanks.
sure,
Thanks.
for sure. And yeah, it was super interesting because you in that post you had mentioned that you thought that you and your partner had not played so well, but it turns out that you actually did play very well, and it was a matter of those flex volleys and then the second ball. So after you return the
Yeah.
second ball, so that was really cool. And so I guess maybe take me through the process of analyzing film. You said you do it like 2 to 3 times a week, and then like how do you take notes, and like any other insights would be very interesting.
Okay. Well, uh, is this just like how do you watch film, or like how do you go about like looking at film?
Yeah, how do you go about looking at, and then like I guess your notes, like I'm curious, like what type of notes are you taking? Is it like, long
Mm.
form or like a chart or anything like that?
It's honestly really sloppy bullet point stuff,
Mm-hmm.
junky, but it makes sense to me, kind of
Yeah.
a thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's how my notes kind of turn out. It jumps from thought to thought. And when I have a thought I'm excited about, I'll probably expand on it. And then if I have another thought that's pretty hot that jumps into my mind, I'll kind of drop that one and start on this one and then go back to that one.
Mm-hmm.
So my thoughts are very kind of all over the place, but I kind of try to get all the information down and then make sense of it from there. Um, but man, like in terms of how to watch film, that man, that's a loaded question. Uh, because there's always different things to watch for. Because like sometimes it's all right. Like I want to feel more free on returns. On my returns, I feel myself trying to hit perfect spots all the time. I'm trying to get it by guys when. In reality, some guys are pretty good returning like that, but not a lot. Only some guys that are like pinpoint returners. They naturally kind of have that.
Mm-hmm.
Other guys have to pick pretty big targets and just keep the ball low and hit it big, right? So maybe I may watch film, trying to understand, okay, if I hit a quality return line, like, do you get a second play on that ball? And if so, how often? So, if I'm getting a second play on a quality return line, maybe 70% of the time, then hey, I feel comfortable returning line now. So sometimes I watch film from that perspective. Sometimes it's from the perspective of I'll just jump to a certain point and be like, what happened if it's in a match I'm disappointed in. Uh, and honestly, sometimes, for example, when I went back to watch matches from this year in January in Australia, I had a completely different perspective. So I kind of feel like I watch film in tons of different ways. How I interpret it probably depends on my mindset at the time and just everything going into it based on when I see it. But I don't know. I kind of feel like more information comes about the more I look at it, or the different questions I kind of ask myself. Maybe, for example, I don't know. Uh, if we got broken a lot, maybe on break points, on deuce points, where was I serving, or
Mm-hmm.
so you can get really detailed with it. It's more. I think the way I watch film is more dependent on like what's my purpose for watching film. That's kind of sometimes it's just to watch the match as a fan and notice what I notice.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's to just watch a player's Pavic is a really good one. He'll just take one step forward once he realizes the return passes the net guy. He gets balance, and then he's pretty long as well. So sometimes I'll just focus on that. It all changes.
Gotcha, man. Very cool. And so actually, as far as the match film, do you get that at every single tournament? Are they always, recording the matches, or are there some instances where you don't have any film to watch?
At challenger tournaments, they're usually recorded.
Mm-hmm.
So we are lucky for that. At the future level, not so much. But I also do have a GoPro that I can hook onto the fence, and we can watch practices or matches. So we'll watch it regardless. We'll get to watch film study regardless. But it is important to watch film study and just kind of just get more quality information so you can make better decisions.
Yeah. Have you ever had like a team that's like, nah, man, you can't film us in the future?
That's pretty funny. No, I haven't. I'm surprised that that's happened, but I haven't.
Okay, that's good. That's
That
good.
haven't.
That's good.
Yeah, yeah.
And so are you watching like pretty much all your matches, so no matter if you won or lost, or is it kind of tilted a little more towards matches that you lost or that you think that something you might not have played so well?
I'll watch both.
Mm-hmm.
The matches we won, we watch it that night and kind of like relive it and celebrate it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And the matches we lose, I'll probably give it a day, and
Mm-hmm.
then I'll watch it at the airport, probably while having a beer or something, and just try to understand kind of what happened.
Cool.
So, but I honestly think how I watch film now is going to be a little bit different from how I used to watch film. I mean, the year being at home, it's still a COVID year, but I guess the initial start of the COVID year, I mean, you reflect on a lot, so, I think it'll kind of help my process moving forward.
Very nice, very nice. So one small technical question, like when you're hooking up your GoPro to the fence, like are you using some sort of mount where you can like put it over the fence? Like what are you using for
Yeah.
that? Oh, that's it.
So I ordered it from this guy named Mike Lamons. He's out in Denver.
Mm.
What's his website? It's like Q1 Tennis Stick
Oh yeah, I've heard of that.
or something. Here we go. Yeah, yeah. So that's what I've been that's what I've been doing for a little while. It helps a lot. It helps a lot, and it also cuts down on the amount of repetitions we have to do. Sometimes you could just instead of an afternoon practice, you could do film study and kind of get the repetitions in that way, as long as you're locked in.
Very nice. Yeah, I mean, video is just so big, and I don't think enough players, especially amateurs, are using it enough. So, kind of to
Yeah,
complete the process, Nathan. Like when you've got the film, you watch it, you take the bullet points, and then you mentioned on that post and probably others too that you then create a practice plan, which is extremely important. So, because I find that a lot of players they just go out on the court and no plan, no nothing, and then they're not optimizing. Obviously, if they do it that way. So,
yeah,
how do you turn your notes into reality, into an actual practice
yeah. For me, I was lucky just because I feel like I basically grew up at a tennis center. I mean, I pretty much spent all day at a tennis center since I was 9 years old.
plan?
And I mean, from there it was USTA, from there it was college, from there it was the tour. So, like, I've seen a lot in terms of developing. I think I have a natural intuition in terms of maybe how to come up with a plan to improve something, just because I've seen everyone work on just about everything. Not to say that I know everything, because I don't, because there's always new things I need to learn. But it does come from past experiences. But maybe to give a specific situation, um, you know, notes come with a lot of self awareness. For example, maybe we won the first set 6-2. It's second set 4-all. I'm serving. It's 30. It's 30-all. Uh, I get a high volley that I miss. And this is actually maybe a similar scenario when I was in Panama. I get a high volley that I missed, and at that point, it's not technical. I mean, it's more of an emotional error. It's where I'm like, man, this is an easy volley. It's right there. I got to do it, and I just completely brick the volley. So the tip in that moment is to just be in the present, focus on your breath rather than something technical. I could go back out on the court that same day and execute a lot of high volleys. So a lot of it starts with self-awareness, with just kind of understanding where you're at, and then just kind of having the past knowledge on how to improve things. Like, how do you improve footwork? I mean, honestly, in my mind, it's probably hand feeds, where you get
Mm.
to really control the environment and force someone to generate all of their pace, because you're hand feeding them. So they have to have perfect footwork. They have to have their feet set in a spot where they can generate all their power. Otherwise, the shot's not going to feel very good. So,
Mm-hmm.
but that comes from, I mean, how are you gonna know that if you haven't been in that environment? So it's just come from past experiences and seeing people develop, and then just kind of applying that to whatever's going wrong, and also asking a lot of questions. Like, I don't know the answer to a lot of questions, but I'm lucky enough to have some really good kind of role models that are not only good coaches, but just good men in general that have positively impacted my personality. So I probably lean on those guys the most when I'm stumped. But if I know an answer and I'm pretty confident about it, I just try to execute it and see if it works.
Gotcha. Very cool. Appreciate that advice, Nathan. Just as an aside, have you worked with Dr. Mark Kovacs?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Cool.
You know, the funny thing is, I actually meant to send him. I am going to send him a text at some point thanking him, but not like he was definitely a turning point in my life. I remember being at USTA, and I worked hard, but it was more about fitting in and joking around and being with the guys. And I remember one day Mark asked me what my goals were, and I was like to be top 10 in the world, and he laughed and he was and he was like, it wasn't in a, it was kind of in a, you know. And he said, if you want to be top 10, you got to work a lot harder than what you're working now. And it was like, he didn't say it in kind of like a douchey way.
Yeah.
But it was in like a real genuine, like, look, you got to work kind of way. And honestly, I don't want to sound super rella, like ever since then I've been working hard, but like that was a moment that I clearly remember, and that this was 12 years ago.
Mm.
And I do remember just taking things more seriously, not trying to be as much of a clown, and just kind of go to work. So, and that's kind of one way that I kind of feel like he's impacted me for sure.
That's really cool because, when you first mentioned that you had a relationship with him, my first thought was, he probably told you some crazy like sports performance, like technique or something, because he's like the man, I think he's with the Cavs now. Is that right? As a sports performance?
Yeah. Well, and that's why I was lucky, and that's USTA exposed me to a lot. I kind of knew Mark before I knew who Mark Kovacs was. I was just a 16-year-old kid, and he was kind of designing the programs that we were doing. And I know he's with the Cavs now, and I know he's a big deal. But at the time, I was kind of just a kid, and so I was lucky to get his advice and kind of understand how he is. He's a great guy. He worked with me some in tennis, even after college on court, and with both fitness and with actual tennis. So it was cool.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, good guy. I've talked to him a ton of times, like multiple interviews.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, he's
great, awesome.
Great contributor to the game for sure. So I guess to back up a little bit, Nathan, I was wondering, like, you obviously made a decision a couple years back to pursue doubles full time. So I guess maybe two questions is one, how did you arrive at that decision? And then also, I mean, has there ever been a point since then where you see some players playing singles and you're like, oh man, I want to go and play again? So yeah.
There are players I see in singles where I know I could give them a run for their money or probably beat, you know?
Yeah.
But it also doesn't mean anything at the same time if you're not going to actually make it, in my mind. So it doesn't really matter. That's just more of an ego thing, which is like, man, kind of the older I get, the less I care about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, like I have a lot more fun playing singles, and I think I could go maybe on a run a tournament here and there. Probably playing more of a doubles style, probably more of an attacking style, which is probably what I should have played in the first place. When I was playing singles, I actually probably feel like I'm playing better singles now than I was then, to be honest. But I arrived at the decision. I think I'm 28 now, but I was turning 26, and the tour was kind of doing a thing. Like I was 500 at the time, ATP singles, and like 190 or 200 in doubles. And I remember they were coming up with two separate tours, and I would have to either choose between singles and doubles. And it was already kind of being recommended to me by a few people to maybe go doubles because I always had good results. I mean, even back to juniors, like we had played US Open because we had won Kalamazoo doubles, which is a huge deal at the time. And and then I always did well, super nationals, whatever, like I did well. So it just kind of seemed to make sense, and it just seemed, it just felt right. It was kind of hard letting, singles go because you're letting one dream go. But this the doubles is something I really love. I love I love the way the practices are. They're definitely a lot different from singles. I love the fact that you're working together with another person, and it's just really different. And it's also added a huge element to my game in singles, kind of how I see the game, how I decide to take time away, the type of volleys I hit, the way I use my volleys. So I don't know. I don't miss the grind of it, because in order for me to even have a crack at singles and maybe even get 250 is to have a coach, have this, have that, have all this stuff on the road, which I wasn't even close to affording.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like I could kind of do it in doubles with a partner by my own, or not by my own, not on my own either, but kind of with a partner, without a coach, without all that stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I remember talking to Tread Huey, another great doubles player, and he kind of had the same, conclusion. Like, I just my skill set, I'm doing much better, and that's the way to go. And it's a smart decision. So, in regards to like the financial situation, and I did hear you talk about this in a previous podcast. I think it's maybe an Australian fellow, which was a good one. But how tough is it to stay afloat? I mean, on the tour, because obviously it's very cutthroat. It's very difficult, and I know they've made some initiatives to like give some more money, at other tournaments, but it still doesn't seem like enough. So, how difficult is it?
Yeah, I mean, you're losing money every week. I mean, to really give it a shot on tour, I don't know exact numbers, but you're losing a lot every week. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sorry, every year.
Mm-hmm.
You're losing money every week, but that, everyone's situation is different. Some people have their parents back them for a certain period of time. Some people find sponsors to give them a certain amount. Some people find sponsors to give them a certain amount then that they have to pay back later. It's very individual, and the hard thing about tennis is that you kind of have to be your own CEO in the beginning and make all your decisions, and you don't
Mm-hmm.
really know if they're the right ones or the wrong ones. You're just kind of doing the best you can. So everyone's unique; it's completely different and unique to their own situation. But it is really hard. It does add pressure to your matches. If you are running low on money, it's kind of just as if you would imagine, really. But it's tough being in those situations, but you know, it's a part of it at the same time. Like I feel like just about everyone, probably 99% of the people in the top 100 have felt that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For sure. For sure. Yeah. And, it's funny because we've got, I play USTA leagues and stuff. And like, even in those matches, like people are like, feeling all the pressure and stuff, but then, it's multiplied, 100X by, that it's your livelihood and all that. So I know you've talked about routines and things that to help you. But I mean, have you ever, been in a match and it's close and then that maybe that thought pops up in your head, like, hey, dude, if you win this, you're going to win like a few more grand. And then like, how do you
Yeah.
deal with that?
No, because by that point I knew better.
Okay.
But that moment happened in a different form. It was my sophomore year in college. We were in Illinois. We were playing Virginia. We were down 3-1, had three matches on the court. I was 3-all in the third. The two other matches were up a break Georgia's way. So I'm
Mm.
thinking, man, if I win this match, we're going to actually beat Virginia and go to our first final. And I'm playing against this guy named Alex Damajan. Really, probably,
Mm.
I think he's top 10 in the country at the time. I mean, he's good. And I was kind of like playing ahead of myself. Like I was playing well, and it was 4-all, 30-all. I stopped and thought about it, and double faulted twice, and then he served it out. Match was over like 5 minutes later. So
Yeah.
that's a pretty hard lesson to learn in terms of just stopping to think, or just kind of like letting your conscience run wild when you really just need to keep it fixated on one point and just kind of let your body do it and know how to ball. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what you have to do. You have to keep yourself calm. However you get to that state is on you, or at least that's how a lot of people work. Maybe some people have to get hype, but that's definitely not me. So I don't know if I answered your question or not, but
No, that was good. That was
there's a bunch
perfect.
of words. Yeah.
Bunch of
Okay,
powerful words.
There's a bunch of words. Just make something of it.
We will. I hope the listeners do. But no, it's really good stuff, man. Appreciate it. And
Yeah.
so regarding like the finding partners on the tour, I mean, is that so? I guess another two-parter. Like, I guess what's your process for that? And then is it difficult to find somebody who like fits your like how you want them to be playing with you?
It's the same thing with, hey, you have a ranking, you have I guess, certain value attached to you, and that differs in the eyes of others. let's make a negotiation. Who's going to be your business partner in the world of doubles ATP tennis? And that's how you go about it. You know, right now I'm playing with a guy named Max Schnur, and I've really enjoyed it. You know, I think we both do a good job and make a good team. He's very professional. He's really smart. He enjoys film study as well. We have the same working rhythm, and those are things that you need. You know, we both like to take kind of like an intellectual, studious approach to the game and break things down rather than just talk about, oh man, it felt like this out there, you know? So it makes for fun conversations, and it's definitely, you think of it as a business partnership. So that's how it happens.
Gotcha, man. Gotcha.
Yeah.
In your eyes, like in order to break the top, I mean, you're very close to top 100. So let's say top 50, what things do you think you might need to improve upon to get there?
Serve return. The hands are there. Net partner stuff is there. Return partner stuff is there. Really the biggest thing was the serve, because I was landing behind the baseline all probably my whole career outside of finally until this year when I think I finally figured it out. And, you know, the issue kind of related to like the kinetic chain type stuff. But it was all the serve. I mean, I was always probably around that 115 to 145 area, which is really all the same skill level. It just kind of depends on how you execute here and there, but they get you into the same tournaments in terms of like high-end challenger, high-end, mid-high-end challenger kind of doubles player. I lost my train of thought. Sorry, where was I again?
Oh, no worries. I was just like, what types of things do you think you need to work on to get to the top 50?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I was landing behind the court last year, so it's landing inside the court and just hitting the serve like I should. You know, I mean, like I'm a taller dude, like athletic looking guys, so I need to hit my serve like it. And the thing is, I hit my serve fine before, but it was too inaccurate to make it inside the top 70, like emphatically, so to speak. You know, like you want to be able to make it, not just make it off of a fluke year or kind of be around that area. And you got to win about 6, 7 challenges a year to be inside the top 100, probably be top 70. You got to win that and do well in the ATP or two, which means that when it's time to close out a match, you got to close it out because the momentum changes quick. It's 2 out of 3 sets, no ad, tiebreaker. A lot of things can happen. So when you're kind of like on a team's neck, you gotta be there. You know, can't start not doing well. You know, so a lot of that for me relates to closing matches out, serving at 5-3, 5-4. You know, when competitors on the other side tend to raise their game. And it's just being more dominant from that end. Like it's getting better in all other areas, but that's the main area that really had to grow. Like in a tournament, it's common for me to serve well one match, serve okay the next match, serve kind of well half a match and okay the rest of the match, and then serve okay. And that's just not either. I'm going to win a lot of breakers, which those can go either way, or that's it. That's it. You know, so that's been the focus.
Gotcha. And yeah, I mean, doubles especially seems like it's like going to the third set every single time. Like, you know, a lot. It's just very razor thin margins over there on the tour with doubles. So if you don't mind, like, I'm very curious, you know, especially with the serve technique, it's like, you know, it's a shot where you control it, you're not moving, and yet it's like the most complicated and tough to master, it seems like. So
yeah.
What specifically with regards to the kinetic chain, like, was it like, what part of it was it that you had to fix?
Well, the biggest thing is, you know, I was tossing the ball and trying to just like slam the ball down with my shoulder, basically, rather than just using my leg drive to just push up and out at the target and just let the shoulder be the shoulder. And by saying that, I mean, just like if there's like this fluid relationship. Have you done medicine ball tosses before?
Yeah.
Because this is kind of how, and this is probably what the video with Peter will be about. Probably a spoiler, but
nice.
Have you done the one where you kind of squatted and then toss the ball in the air?
Yes.
So you know the synergy between the squat and then when you then push up and toss the ball in the air. Kind of, do you feel that kind of the reason the ball gets so high is because that synergy that happens between your legs and then it travels through your core and then through your arms? But if you didn't use any legs and you just tossed the medicine ball in the sky, probably wouldn't go very high. And that's kind of how I like to explain the serve in terms of feeling that fluidity transfer. Obviously, you're not standing as if you would toss a medicine ball, but you're feeling that same concept flow through your body as you push the ground away with your legs, and then let that force travel through your arm and just let that throwing motion happen naturally. That probably needs to happen, especially amongst recreational levels, when people kind of use their knee bends whenever they decide to, rather than kind of a knee bend that helps flow energy through their abs and then their shoulder to get power on the ball. So for me, it became understanding that the kinetic chain, it starts by pushing the ground down and away and just launching my body towards the target and just letting my shoulder flow, as opposed to jumping up at the ball, trying to slam the ball down into the ground. There's a different emphasis of where I put my force. My force isn't from top down of slamming the ball down.
Mm-hmm.
It's from drive the legs to the ball and just let the arm flow. And understand that the serve is basically a throwing motion. If I'm throwing a football, a baseball, or whatever, and let my leg drive and the fluidity of that force travel into my arm and just let that thing go. And it's just my responsibility to jump directly at my target and aim that throwing motion. But stay tuned for Peter Freeman's YouTube videos, because that's just a short clip of what we'll talk about.
Love it. Yeah. Love it. Yeah. I'll link to that, and I'm excited to watch that soon. And yeah, I mean, I think this is pretty much the same point, but I remember interviewing Rick Macy, and he said that amateur is one of the biggest problems. I mean, actually, a lot of players on the tour as well, but like what they do is they perform the racket drop too early. You're supposed to like push up and then have the racket drop happen. But with a lot of players, they just have that racket drop, then they push up. So that whole timing, like, I think is really key to getting that flow that you're talking about.
Yeah.
So
of course.
Yeah.
Of course. And it's funny because, again, like the serve is a science, but it's an art too. Like, it's kind of like a thumbprint. Like, everyone does have their own unique rhythm to a certain extent on the serve, and people have to embrace that aspect of it while also understanding the more kind of universal rules of the kinetic chain. So I think it's more about having understanding and then practicing that timing, like you said, but both understandings are definitely needed to probably master the serve.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Appreciate that advice. Well, I should probably be paying you a couple $100 for a lesson right here, man. It's
No, I enjoy it. I enjoy it. To be honest, at the end of days, I go home and journal about tennis and what worked in my lessons, what felt good during my practice, and these are just all thoughts I enjoy to discuss. So.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. Actually, to that point, are you taking clients right now? Because you're coaching, obviously.
Yeah, I pretty much have been the whole year. There are 3 girls I've been working with pretty consistently that I've just been keeping it to ever since I've been pretty serious about just training, and that's been kind of the last 3 months. But before then, it was just kind of whoever, whenever, all day. Leave my house in the morning and just go from place to place, just helping people out. And I grew a lot during that period and learned a lot, not only about just tennis and becoming a better player myself, but just in terms of the real world, what I want to do. Am I happy doing that? Like, it just gave me more insight just into life after tennis, which is something I have not spent a lot of time doing or thinking about. So.
Awesome, man. Yeah, well, obviously, if people who are, I know there's people from Georgia and Atlanta even listening, so what do you think? Should they DM you, or what should they do if they want to listen?
Yeah. DMing works. I mean, honestly, it's better for the DMing's better in terms of just asking for advice. In terms of a lesson, I'm honestly going to be on the road all year, probably until I make it, in my mind. I mean, once Wednesday happens, I kind of see myself being in Turkey for a month, possibly France for a month after that. And then, I'm going to be, if I can't play challengers because of whatever kind of going on with COVID, then I'll probably play the UTR events going on locally and travel with another doubles guy, and we'll get our work in on the road. And then when it's time to play another challenger, we'll be pretty sharp. So I mean, I kind of envision that's how a lot of my year would go. But I'd be more than happy to answer questions and try to explain things pretty well. And yeah, I mean, but I also have my website and I'm going to be blogging. So either way, either way.
Awesome.
And
Cool.
there's going to be a week here or there where I'm in town in Atlanta, and that's going to be my off time where I'm not really playing. So that'll be a fun time for lessons too.
I got you. Wow, man. How excited are you to embark on this like potentially monthly or double 2 month trip abroad?
Yeah, yeah. It's exciting and scary at the
Right.
same time.
Right.
I mean, because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. I hope a lockout doesn't happen and I'm stuck in Turkey. I mean, but at least I'll be there with some of my closest friends. So at least that's the bright side, and that'll be a unique story one day. But that's the scary part. The fun part is I get to spend the full day applying everything I've learned from this year into my game and my new habits in terms of how I want to get better every day and kind of what I want to do with my life. So, um, and yeah, I don't know. This year is really important in terms of learning. So I'm really excited just from that aspect as well. So excited and scared at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so like you're heading out in a few days. So have you set any particular goals or intentions or anything of that nature? And if so, could you share with us?
Yeah. I mean, in terms of numerical goals, I definitely want to be 70 by the end of the year, or top 100 or something. Definitely not one, whatever I am now. I mean, and not that 130 or wherever I am is bad, but
Mhm.
I got to get to the point to where I'm like actually able to live off of, kind of like what I'm doing. And in my mind, that's definitely 70 in the world, because that's when you're consistently playing slams. So,
Mm.
that's my goal, but that's I don't check in on that too often. That's not something I don't check the points. How close am I? How many points I need? I kind of put more of my focus on my daily systems and how I can kind of improve that and how I can kind of settle into those as deep as possible. And if I'm making good progress over the course of a month, I'll kind of check in. But that's how I'd rather go about it. I mean, for me, it's more like, for example, my routine here is to get up every morning at 6:15, drive indoors, hit serves, morning practice, uh, gym right after that, and
Mm.
then 4 hours of lessons, then foam roll, stretch, watch basketball, eat, go to sleep, and then you do the same thing the next day. And that's a routine that I enjoy and that I like. It's fun for me and it's repeatable, but it's also hard work. So my goal is to find that routine on the road where there's so many moving pieces and not just at home where everything's just set and easy. So that'll be it. That'll be it. And generally, whenever I've been able to settle into a working rhythm, I've generally done well over the course of time. So, but that rhythm looks different depending on the place. It's going to look different in Turkey. It's going to look different in France. Just I
Hmm.
don't even know if I'll be able to have a box of balls to serve with. In Turkey, maybe some tournaments only you can rent out 3 balls at a time, especially during a
Mm.
COVID year. Maybe they
Wow.
want limited people touching the balls. So I don't really know how preparation will be affected, but I've done enough work here to where, you know, you get out there, you try to survive and see what you could do.
Yeah, 100%, Nathan. And it's very interesting, that dichotomy that you just talked about between the goals and then the process and things like that. Because, like, I guess maybe overthinking the goals is too much pressure. So, I guess how do you deal with? I know you kind of know how to deal with it, but in general, do you think that you need a goal in order to have that top end motivation, if you will, or do you think somebody who just puts in the process in and just follows it without any sort of goal can be just as or more successful than if they had goals?
Well, you need both, and in my
Okay.
mind, they both serve they both serve different functions. I think that the vision, the numerical goal, kind of gives you that gas. When I think about playing 4 slams a year and being able to afford this and that or whatever, it gives you a certain amount of energy to kind of then come up with a plan that you're willing to carry out over a long period of time. So for me, it's kind of like the end goal probably fuels the process goals. But it has to go in that order. It's not like you could just have end goal and then have, unreasonable expectations and then act kind of like a psycho when you don't get it. And, I feel like I feel like a lot of people try that because it's so, it's what you see on TV and in movies. And, I don't know. I definitely feel like I see that at the lower levels of tennis, which kind of makes me laugh. And no, like you're going to mess up like everyone else. You just have to kind of get up the next morning and practice.
Man.
So, I don't know. I mean, that's kind of, that's just kind of how it works. You just got to do it over a long period of time, but you definitely, man, if you got to put the primary focus on the process goals. Once you get the gas and the motivation, you've got to just, okay, like what's my daily system now and how can I adjust it?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. It's kind of funny. I was laughing to myself while you were talking there because, like, I feel like for USTA players, it's like the complete opposite. Where, like, if they're a 4-5, like, and then they get bumped up to 5-0, they're like, "What the?" Like they want to go like stay lower or whatever. You know what I mean? But I don't know. My brain's kind of random, so sorry about that. But
no, it's not. I mean, I mean, that happens at all kind of. It was. That happens, but I mean, but at the same time, like people that play 5-0s and like that, like tennis is where they get their competitive drive out for some, probably that used to be former athletes or maybe even from people that haven't really competed before, and and some people just play to have fun. So obviously, if those two things mesh, it's kind of a funny, it's kind of a funny combination, But people play for different reasons,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean that's really important to figure that out for yourself, so then you can see what you need to work on or maybe what not need to work on. So we talked about how you've been doing a lot of coaching, and you're going to embark on a journey where you won't be doing that so much for a while. But maybe what is one key lesson that you can give some coaches out there to be an effective coach? Either that and/or any particular pet peeves or mistakes that you see from other coaches.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, like, where do you start? Probably. I mean, not to, and not. Like there's a lot of unbelievably good coaches out there, and I learn from everyone. I mean, like for example, like I started teaching my mom tennis, and I can learn so much from my mom. But but you do pass a lot of kind of know-it-all coaches that just kind of just emphasize probably the wrong things that I feel like I kind of run in, that I see or just observe or just I don't know. But probably my biggest pet peeve is when people say move your feet. To be honest, and the reason is because what does that mean? I feel like if I line 10 people up and I ask them all to move their feet, they give me 10 different answers. So does it mean move more intense? So, you can do the wrong motor pattern, but do it more intensely and just miss, but it's just a more powerful shot kind of, so I feel like generally move your feet means focus, but a lot of people don't know how to move their feet. How do you get out of the way of the ball? How do you hit open stance? How do you move to the ball with appropriate spacing? Those are all things that kind of have to be explained. That's not explained by, hey, move your feet. So that's probably one of my biggest pet peeves. And the other one is just a lack of understanding of momentum and how momentum happens with the lower body. The shot's shaped with the upper body. Like for example, if I'm going to slice the ball, I'm going to push my whole body through the ball, and I'm going to keep my knuckles up on the slice at the outside of the ball, make sure my knuckles go to the target. Like, my lower body's moving through the ball for the power, and then I have my technical rules for the upper body, but the upper body just flows through the shot. Similar to that medicine ball toss that we talked about earlier, where the lower body pushes, the upper body flows. Except when you're tossing a medicine ball in the sky, the hands just go up. When you're swinging a racket out for a topspin forehand, you're just completely letting the arm go, and it's initiated by your hip turn into the shot, and you just completely let it go and kind of let the shoulder be the shoulder, and your hand kind of has this doorknob turning motion that allows you to get the top spin as long as you hit the bottom of the ball. So like that's just kind of and I just jumped into a topspin forehand randomly, but then you've got hitting the ball with your hip, which is your power. You let your upper body flow through the ball. You let the doorknob turn with your hand, but you make sure you hit the bottom of the ball so the ball doesn't hit the ground before it hits the net. So, like, but it's understanding that just like, hey, you create momentum with the lower body so the upper body can carry out proper technique. We don't want to look at, a lot of times I feel like coaches look at the lower body and it's doing absolutely nothing to help a person's upper body, and the person isn't strong enough to just have proper technique with the upper body and generate full technique. It's really hard to do. No, the legs generate force, the body generates force. So it's probably the understanding of how to properly use momentum and the importance of positioning for recreational coaches. And it's for them to not say move your feet, but tell someone how to move their feet, So those are probably two of the biggest things.
Love it. Very nice, Nathan. And yeah, something that was pretty interesting, and I don't want to spoil the whole YouTube video for the backhand, but you did the ATP two-handed backhand. And actually what was interesting to me is, you mentioned that, I guess if I get this right, for players who want more spin on their backhand, they can actually, instead of using the classic continental grip, for their dominant hand, they can actually shift that a bit. So can you kind of talk about that particular tip? I thought that was a really good one.
Yeah. So the best way to kind of explain it without a visual is if I'm standing across the net, and if I have my kind of racket to the side, man, I'm off to a terrible start. Because like I have to have a baseline, I feel like, to establish people with, because ultimately the more the racket bed faces directly towards the ground, the more spin you're going to get. Are we at a good visual right now?
Yeah.
So if you turn that racket directly perpendicular towards the net, that's a continental grip. You're going to get no spin.
Mm-hmm.
Are you with me?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, if we're at the Western grip where the bed of the racket is facing towards the ground, you're really going to have to hit the ball at 6 o'clock. If you're imagining the ball as a clock face, the top is 12 o'clock, the bottom is 6 o'clock, you're really going to need to hit the bottom of that ball, and you're really going to need to feel initial lift. And for people that are just switching to a Western grip for the first time, I would honestly recommend you try to lob the ball, and you're probably going to hit the ball on the service line on the other side. That's how different the feel is for lifting the shot. For people that use maybe semi-Western grips that don't know how to fully use their hand, if they switch to a Western, they'll hit a lot of spin, but it'll ground out every time, in terms it'll hit the service line on their side, and then it'll roll into the net. But hey, you're going to hit a lot of spin if you just really lift the ball and act like you're going to hit a lob. It's a different way to swing, but that's kind of the idea. So you don't have to use hand skills as much because the grip gives you spin if your racket bed is facing towards the ground. On the other side, if the racket bed is faced towards the other side of the net, you got to use a lot of hand. And you honestly can't use enough hand to get the ball up and down with the continental grip and hit the ball hard. You have to take pace off of it, So, long story short, the more down the string bed is, the more you have to lift. The more facing across the net the string bed is, the more you have to just really not lift and hit through the shot, your classic traditional straight through swing.
Gotcha. Really good stuff there. Obviously people should tinker and see what feels right for them. So great stuff there.
Right.
Nathan, regarding your website, I was wondering, at what period in time and what sparked that interest in deciding to actually create a website and then, post on it and so forth?
It was the combination of I enjoy writing, I enjoy tennis, sharing information, and just learning from others. Really, the best way for me to learn is to get questions from people and think of things that I haven't thought of before. So that was part of it. The other part was it's an easy way to stay connected to people that have supported me financially.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also a way to get more financial support. So it's kind of a combination of those three things. I kind of see it as a win-win. I kind of get to give tennis information and just give insight to what it's like of a professional touring player that's trying to make it. The good days, the bad days, we're regular just like anyone else. Sometimes we want to play tennis, sometimes we don't, but we find deeper reasons for why we do things, and it helps you stick it out. I get on these rambles. Initial question again?
Oh no, yeah. I mean, you answered it. You're just like what caused you to create the website, and then
Yeah. Oh
yeah,
yeah.
pretty
I did.
much,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That was it. That was it. Yep.
Cool. Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
really, I mean, I wish so many more players did this. You know, like I've had some players on that have blogs like Daniel Lau and Jason Jung and some others. So, you know, I wish some more players did that. But I'd love to keep reading your stuff. So I definitely look forward to some posts, and hopefully you'll have some time after your wins and whatnot to blog while you're out of the country.
Yeah, I'll have the time. Like I won't have an Xbox. I won't have anything. I'll just have my computer and my tennis rackets in a hotel room that we probably have to be confined to, and
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah,
You
that's
know.
it. That's
So
it, man. Cool, good stuff.
yeah.
So one Hotlanta related question: are you a fan of like hip hop and all that?
Yes, I like hip hop. As far as like really being in the music game and understanding what's coming out and what's this, what's that. Like I'm not like I just listen to Apple Music and
Hmm.
sometimes I listen to the browse hip hop and listen to what I listen to, but that's kind of like the extent of how I kind of do it.
Gotcha. No, that's cool because I just thought of I think maybe several weeks ago, or I forgot when I saw there was this battle of like between Young Jeezy and Gucci Mane, and so that was funny to watch. But I was just wondering, like, if do you have a particular favorite? Because it's like crazy how many like really good rappers, great rappers
Out
are
of
from
Atlanta.
Atlanta. It's insane. You know, I got like this list of, I mean, small list like Ludacris, Young Jeezy, Ti, Gucci Mane.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, do you have a favorite or?
That's well, I mean, when I was growing up, Young Jeezy and Ludacris, big time.
Okay,
But that's completely like an Evan King question, and I bring up Evan because he's one of my close friends,
cool.
and we played a lot of doubles together, and we're
Yeah,
actually playing together this first week, and in
nice.
Istanbul. So like he's he's into the Jameer Jenkins also. He's Serena's hitting partner right now.
Uh huh.
Like those guys are kind of in the daily group chat, always talking about rap battles and different things people are dropping and all this stuff, you know. So that's a question they would for sure get excited about. I just end up lost in the question, like I don't know. I listen to Apple Music. Does that count?
right,
Kind of a thing. So
right, right. Oh, that's cool.
yeah,
That's cool.
but I do. Yeah, but I do like Jeezy and Ludacris for sure.
Gotcha. Me too. So,
Mhm.
yeah, maybe I can get Evan on the show sometime. That'd be fun. But
That would be yeah.
yeah, yeah.
He's a good personality. He's funny to talk to.
Cool, man. Cool. So, you obviously seem like a very well. You are a very smart guy and very articulate and well educated. I was wondering
Yeah.
if you, I don't know how much reading you've done with respect to tennis books, or actually they don't have to be tennis books. But I was going to ask you, what 3 books would you give to a friend to help them
Ooh, that
get
is
better?
such a good one.
Yeah.
The number one, I would say Atomic Habits is probably number
Yes,
one.
good book.
Oh, have you read that?
Yeah, yeah, it's real good.
Yeah, yeah. Atomic Habits is awesome. You almost had me, you almost had me wanting to go back to my Kindle list to see. Atomic Habits is great.
Yeah.
That the reason I put that number one is like I love the motivational stuff. I love feeling ready and gassed up to do something, and I would love to say those feelings are always turned on, and you're always going to feel like that, but you don't. Like that it wavers on everyone. So,
Hmm.
Atomic Habits is a really good practical way of just getting you to design your day to I don't know, be reach whatever goals you have or whatever you want to do. So,
Hmm.
that's definitely one. Oh man. This is a fun one because I want to pick some good ones out,
Hmm.
and I've been reading. Ah, what's it called? Finding Your Zone is another good one. Is
Mm,
I would put that number two. Have
okay.
you read this one?
That one I haven't. No.
So Finding Your Zone is about a guy that pretty much has done research on a bunch of high performance, and he boils the flow state when you're competing, when time seems to slow down into like 10 steps.
Hmm.
And it's really, really good. And
Hmm.
it gets you to kind of just keep things into perspective. Because at the end of the day, when you're competing, you got to accept that the worst can happen, and you got to let go and expect for the best, be okay with the worst, and just have empathy for yourself, kind of all in between. Long story short, that's, for me, that's what everything comes back to. But that book's a great one in terms of keeping your perspective in line, where you're really kind of playing for the love of the game. Don't let anything taint that. And he explains different characteristics of the flow state and how it's achieved, and how it's typically achieved by accident, but these are the more consistent ways you could produce flow state. They all focus on these things. Keeping your motivation pure was just one of them that stood out to me, because that's one where, as time goes on, as you hang around different people or you're getting different results, your motivations can change, and you got to keep your eye on, hey, no, like, I'm not playing for their approval. I'm playing for my own happiness, kind of a thing.
Right.
So that's definitely number 2. Number 3, I'm going to be mad about this one later once I go through
your library,
through my books.
Yeah.
Through my library, but the thing that comes to mind is probably this one book called Flow. It's similar to Flow State, and it pretty much asks the question, like, hey, all of our flow states are when we're challenged intellectually. Why does everyone want our when our best times, our flow state, or our most optimal moments are during work or during when we're being challenged. So that's another book that just got me to just enjoy the working rhythm of just being in the gym or hitting serves for the millionth time or whatever. So that's how it's kind of helped me in that way. It's definitely not my top 3, but it's something that I was going back to read through recently, or just highlights. And that's probably why it's on my mind. But definitely the first 2. First 2, 1,000,000%, I'd recommend.
Gotcha. Appreciate that.
Probably mindset. So I'd actually put mindset number 3. This one coach named Stephen Armitage recommended that to me, and it's all about finding things that you're not great at and practicing it. Like, I'm terrible at Call of Duty Warzone, so maybe I'm terrible at it.
Okay.
Maybe yeah. Maybe so I practice it with the mindset of just being patient, learning, understanding, being okay with failure, all those things basically, and making that a practice and not just something so.
I like this approach because I am terrible at Counter-Strike. All my friends make fun of me, and I feel like I should play that more now.
Yeah. I mean, like, can you take the criticism and be cool with it, or can you, I don't know, there's always, you can always practice some kind of emotional intelligence or skills or whatever you want to call them. I mean, I do the same thing in NBA 2K, like, literally, in NBA or Madden. Like, I try to be calm and try not to let the defense rush me, and I try to, like, take my time and make my decisions. Like, I like to play my little mental games.
I like it. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Actually, have you heard of David Goggins?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't Hurt Me.
Yeah,
That's a really good book, and I follow him, and he always posts these things, and it's so interesting because, like, he runs like so many miles every single day, and then he's like, I don't even like running. He does it like to build up that mindset and do things that are difficult so that you can just expand yourself. So.
Of course.
I won't I won't quote him word for word because then we'd have to bleep everything out. But I'm
familiar with the quotes. I listen to some motivational videos while waking up, and he would be a guy that sent some motivational videos.
Nice. Yeah.
He's like, man, he's like, why lie? I just call myself fat. Don't sugarcoat it. I'm fat. I'm like, all right, okay, let's go.
That's right.
So that's you can start a day like that or two and get you going.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'm glad we. I know those exact videos that I think for like 3 months straight, I just put those videos, and it's really cool. It's a nice amalgamation of, like, top speakers, and like I would, like, during my morning routine during exercise, I just play those. So it's powerful. Yeah, good stuff, man. So another fun question that I always ask is, if you could erect a huge billboard in the most trafficked street in Atlanta, and you could write anything on it, what would you write on it?
Honestly, to the whole tennis world, probably nobody cares. you know.
That's
I
good.
mean, and not in a not in a cynical, you know, my favorite quote, oh, is from this one book. It's something about controlling emotions or whatever, but it is my favorite quote probably of the year. And it's like, when you're 20, you think everyone cares.
Mm.
When you're 40, you stop caring what others think. When you're 60, you realize no one ever cared in the first place. And it's not to be cynical and say no one cares about you, because people, like, in my mind, the world's a great place. People do care. But in terms of tennis results, like, my best friend can go out and win the U.S. Open tomorrow, and I'd be super happy for him and I would feel for him. But you know, I'm not going to sleep thinking about that. Like, I'm
Right.
going to sleep thinking about what I got to do. And it's the same if Evans to go lose to someone that he shouldn't lose to. Like, you think about it for 5 minutes and then you're off to the next thing. And I think if a lot of people realize that, they would take a lot of unnecessary stress off themselves and just not take yourself so seriously, you know, because yeah, people look at it for a second, but people don't take it as like, people don't take it as seriously as, yeah, it's not that serious. So that's probably what I would put on a billboard. My favorite quote that I read this year, in the terms of, like, people care, especially in terms of health. You know,
Right.
like Dustin Taylor, like he's one of my favorite coaches by far, and he's coached a lot of really good players. And he cares speech. I just happened to see the quote that supported it, but you know, it was, people are going to care if you break your leg. People are going to fall asleep. Like, I hope he's okay. I hope he's doing well. Yada yada. But
Right.
tennis match, it's a tennis match. You know, kind of get
Yeah.
over yourself. You know, like, we should feel important because we're important, but we're not that important, kind of a thing. So I don't know. Like, it's just that understanding, I think, will help tennis players play from a healthier state of mind and just be happy and play and not force things.
Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, I forget who was saying this on a podcast that I was listening to recently, but you know, you have to kind of think about like what you're saying to yourself and the stress you put on yourself in the terms of like, how would you treat a friend? Like, would you, you know, a lot of us tennis players
Exactly.
were like cursing at ourselves, like, what the F, like, why did you miss this? And it's like,
Exactly.
would you talk to a friend like that? And then also like, you know, if you lose, like, just act like, I mean, like if a friend lost, you know, you would only think about it for like a minute. And so you should kind of treat yourself
Of course.
like, just like you said. So yeah.
Of No, I mean, like, it's empathy. It's, you have empathy for your friends. People lack to have empathy for themselves.
Right.
And it's just like, you got to remember that you're a person too. If I say something to myself, like, you think you don't feel that, you're going to feel that. And if you think you
Mhm.
don't feel that, play closer attention. And if nothing's like, I feel, ripping yourself and having low self-confidence after a while is going to manifest itself in some way, whether you realize it or not, whether it's you feeling that, or whether it's you looking low confident, or whether it's you losing confidence in a situation where you should be confident. So empathy is needed every step of the way. And to be honest, I practice that in my NBA as well. You know, like, I want to win these games. I play Xbox Live. Like, I play Xbox Live. I play with the Falcons. I'm playing against the Saints. I want to win that game. If I lose, I'm feeling upset about it. But you know, I have to have empathy with myself at the end of the day. It's okay. You want to win. That's a good thing. You're competitive. Okay. I feel sorry for myself, and that kind of ended like that. And I'm still mad, but it's better than ripping myself as well.
For sure.
So, you know, and I give myself a little bit of credit at the same time for wanting
Mhm.
it. And it sounds stupid that I'm talking about a video game, but this also relates to tennis, obviously.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like, it's that, I don't know. That's kind of what it's all about at the end of the day, you know, in my mind, or even at higher levels, when I've seen other people play or even talk about it. That's kind of the mentality they approach it with. You have to.
Yeah, you have to for sure. I mean, you know, like because I used to, what would happen is like I would tell myself, okay, yeah, like I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m. tomorrow. And then if I didn't wake up at 6 a.m., then I just like beat myself up. And then what would that do? That just makes me even worse. And like, you know, I would not wake up early the next day.
Exactly.
But, you know, instead, like more lately, I'm like, all right, you know, it's all right. Like, let's just do it tomorrow. Like, it's all good. And then like when you treat yourself better, then you're going to get better results. So, good
Right. I
stuff.
mean, but yeah, it's also recognizing that, okay, I have the ambition to get up. I didn't today. I'm irritated at myself. Okay, I want to be better. Like, you know that about yourself as a fact. So like that's something that you can be, and I'm not even saying that's you, to the hypothetical you that we're talking about. And then hopefully that gives you better energy to make a good decision the next day. And if you don't, then you have more empathy and then you try to get it the next day. But it's, I mean, but David Goggins' way does work for a lot of people. I mean, it just depends on the person. It really depends on the person. Like it's the one of the most fun things to me about coaching this year is none of my two students are not even close to being the same. Like a lot of my answers for figuring them out have been completely unique to all of them. And I think that's the same when it comes to people trying to understand their routines or even how they should play the game. Probably another one of my biggest pet peeves with coaches is coaches that try to pigeonhole players into these game styles without taking into account already special talents and abilities of the players and tendencies. Right. So that's probably one of the biggest things. Like everyone's going to come to my academy and have a huge serve, huge forehand. You can have those things, but might not be centered around that player's game. So that's another pet peeve. That's kind of funny to me. But yeah.
Cool, man. Cool. Great stuff there. Just curious about like your gear. I'm wondering like what you're using. So if you don't mind, maybe like racket, strings, tension would work.
Yeah. So right here,
there you go.
Vocal, the sign. Nice. I use the clothes, the rackets, got the sweatshirt on, the strings. I enjoy it. I love them. They've got really good quality rackets. They're a smaller brand. Some people haven't even heard of them. But they've got really, really good quality rackets, and they take care of me really well, kind of with everything. So, I'm pretty lucky to have them. Awesome. And my tension is 46.
Nice. Pounds. Very cool. Actually, I use Vocal Cyclone for strings, and I love them. And they're like,
that's a good one.
Yeah, and they're like not expensive, and they're really good poly. So I like it. I like it a lot. Yeah, good stuff, man. Good stuff.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, Nathan, I mean, it's obviously been a pleasure, and I just wanted to give you the chance if there's anything else that, maybe we didn't cover that you want to talk about or anything else you want to say to the audience before we wrap up.
No, I mean, I enjoyed it. Maybe follow along my website as I start kind of blogging. Like it's always cool to have feedback or kind of generate discussion. I mean, I'm going to be in my room in Turkey, not doing much outside of practice. So, and my Xbox won't be there. So there you go. So, I mean, that's about it. But outside of that, no, feel free to reach out for tennis questions, and that's about it.
Cool. And where can people follow you online, on social, anything else?
I mean, Instagram. I wouldn't recommend anything on Facebook. I'm never on Facebook. I mean, I'm never on social media. I mean, I'll maybe pop onto Instagram to scroll for like 2 seconds and then I'm off. So that's kind of the extent of it. But they can get in touch through Instagram probably. Like I'll get the notifications. So they can get in touch that way.
Gotcha. So
Twitter probably not, but yeah.
Gotcha. So at Nate Pasha, right? NATEPASHA, right?
NATHANPASHA.
Oh, is it? Is that your handle on? Because I just went to your Instagram. I thought it was Nate Pasha, or is it Nathan?
For my Instagram, sorry, yeah, Nate Pasha for Instagram.
Okay, perfect, cool. That sounds
sorry,
good.
yeah, my bad.
No, you're cool. Yeah, and then obviously NathanPasha.net for your website.
Yes. Yep.
Sweet, very cool. So, what about your TikTok game, man? You know TikTok?
The funny thing is, I wouldn't even know about TikTok if it wasn't for my girlfriend, honestly. But
okay.
she's. I'm on TikTok videos. It's out there somewhere. I'm with my girlfriend. She tries to get me to dance. I wish I had more rhythm. Maybe looks would suggest I have more rhythm than I actually do. But I gotta. I've made embarrassing TikTok videos. I can get better.
Okay. So I guess everybody should follow your girlfriend's TikTok, and then we can see you more. Okay, cool. You want to give a shout out to that account? Do you know what the name is?
her name's Kylie McKenzie. It's probably Kylie McKenzie. I bet, or it's something like that. You can find her. It's
So you're admitting you don't even know? Okay, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yes. I don't have it. I don't have TikTok on my phone. The only
Right.
reason, like, it's nope.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I don't either
Yeah,
actually, so I was just playing around there. But
yeah,
cool, man. Well, look, I want to thank you so much. I mean, it's we've been speaking for a long time, almost 2 hours, and I appreciate your
yeah.
time. Looks like you have a pretty cool ride here. So I like the
Oh
interior.
yeah.
It's
It's in the
nice.
car. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
It's comfortable. 2 hours worth of talking. It just went by quick, so it did its
Yeah.
job.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad
You
you
know.
felt that way. I'm glad you weren't like, oh my God, when is this over? But
Oh,
I don't
oh
blame you
yeah,
if
no.
you. Yeah, cool, man.
No, I don't need to be home. I just sit around at home. I don't, I'm just parking lot's fine with me.
Cool, man. Cool.
Parking lot, talk tennis in the parking lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
That's
like
fine.
I want to thank you again, for dropping so much knowledge on us. And it's one thing, you have a lot of pro tennis players who obviously are great players, but they don't quite, they can't really explain the game that well. But I can tell that you really can break down the game really well. Clearly have a very bright future, like doing whatever you like in the game, if it's coaching or commentating or whatnot. And yeah, I mean, thanks a lot for the time. And obviously, we're looking forward to your videos with my friend Pete at Crunch Time
Yeah.
Coaching. And, I just want to wish you a very safe and prosperous trip abroad. And, all the best to you and your partners. And yeah, just best of luck. And thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you. No worries. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks, Nathan. All right. I really hope you enjoyed my interview today with ATP Pro Nathan Pasha, and I really do appreciate Nathan's time. As you can see, we spent a lot of time chatting about tennis and some great tips for how to level up your game. And yeah, I mean, a lot of it just comes down to breaking things down, analyzing what's going on with your game, with your matches, and then developing a great plan that you can put forth, and to just to not be so hard on yourself, to give yourself some empathy, and to pump yourself up and know that even if you made a mistake, all humans do all the time, that we can bounce back with some positivity and a plan for action. So great stuff there with Nathan. And I really would appreciate it if you enjoyed this episode, and if you find the show useful and to help your game, if you would leave a review for the Tennis Files podcast, and you can do that at tennisfiles.com/Apple Podcasts. It would be really helpful if you left a review at Apple Podcasts. But any particular podcast app that you use to listen to the show works too, and it would just really help the show become more visible to more people, because naturally, the more reviews it has, the higher it's ranked in the algorithm that Apple uses. So I would appreciate that. And as always, all the links mentioned today, including the excellent books that Nathan recommended, will be on the show notes page at tennisfiles.com/podcast. You can just go to that page and click on the episode, or you can always plug in the episode number after tennisfiles.com. So tennisfiles.com/181 for this one. Alrighty, I'd love to leave you with a quote, as I often like to do at the end of the show as well. And this one is a Chinese proverb. I don't know exactly who said it, but the quote is, "The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now." So definitely don't feel like you, just because you maybe didn't utilize the past couple years or whatnot in the best way you could for your tennis, that it's too late. There's always time. I've chatted with individuals who are improving every day, and they're like 85 years old, and they're excited to keep getting better every day. So it's always a great feeling, and that's what it's all about, is just to keep improving and just following the process that you've laid out. Alrighty then. Thanks so much for listening, and really appreciate all your support and kind emails and reviews. And with that, I will see you on the next episode of the Tennis Files podcast. This is Mirabon Aranchad signing out.